Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a trip down memory lane, back to a time before smartphones and the internet, when a different kind of social network crackled into life across the United Kingdom. We're talking about the phenomenon of citizens band radio, or C.B Radio. This is the story of how a small box and a long aerial connected a nation, created a unique culture, and even had a showdown with the law. So grab your brew, sit back, and let's tune into the fascinating history of C.B Radio in the UK. Our story really begins in the late 1970s. Across the pond in the USA, C.B Radio was a massive craze, fueled by movies like Smokey and the Bandit and songs like Convoy. Truckers used it to chat, warn each other about speed traps, and just pass the time on long, lonely highways. It was a whole culture, complete with its own slang. Or 10 codes like 10 to 4, okay? And what's your 20? For what's your location? It was only a matter of time before this wave of radio enthusiasm washed up on British shores. And wash up it did. By the late 70s and early 80s, people in the UK started importing American C.B radio sets. These were typically AML or amplitude modulation, radios that operated on a 40-channel frequency band around 27 megahertz. The problem was, this was completely illegal in the UK. The Home Office, which controlled the airwaves, hadn't allocated any frequencies for a public C.B service. But that didn't stop anyone. A thriving black market for these rigs sprang up, and soon the airwaves were buzzing with illegal transmissions. People from all walks of life got involved. It wasn't just hobbyists or electronics buffs. It was lorry drivers, taxi drivers, farmers in remote areas, and teenagers in their bedrooms. They created their own handles or nicknames, like Silver Fox, Night Owl, or Roadrunner. The appeal was undeniable. For the first time, you could talk to strangers from the comfort of your own car or home completely for free. It was a community. People made friends, organized eyeballs, which were face-to-face meets, and helped each other out. If someone's car broke down, a call for help on the CB would often bring a friendly local to the rescue. But the authorities weren't happy. These illegal AM signals were causing a lot of interference. They were bleeding over into other frequencies, disrupting everything from television and radio broadcasts to, more seriously, emergency service communications and even hospital equipment. The government saw it as electronic anarchy. This led to a game of cat and mouse. The Post Office's Radio Regulatory Department, or RRD, had detector vans that would patrol the streets, trying to pinpoint the source of these illegal signals. Getting caught could mean a hefty fine and confiscation of your expensive radio gear. This sense of being an outlaw, of being part of an underground movement, only added to the appeal for many sea bears. The pressure for legalization grew and grew. CB clubs and organizations formed across the country, lobbying the government for a legal system. Massive rallies were held with convoys of cars and lorries, all proudly sporting their aerials, descending on places like Hyde Park in London to make their voices heard. They argued that a dedicated, legal frequency would solve the interference problems and allow the authorities to regulate the system properly. The public demand was simply too big to ignore. The campaign's slogan was simple: legalize CB. Finally, on the 2nd of November 1981, the government relented. But they didn't just legalize the American system. In a move that frustrated many of the original pioneers, they introduced a uniquely British system. This was the famous 2781st band plan. Instead of AM, the UK system would use FM, or frequency modulation, which was less prone to causing interference. And instead of using the same frequencies as the American sets, they created a new set of 40 channels, higher up the 27 megahertz band. This meant that all those illegally imported American AM rigs were still illegal. If you wanted to be on the right side of the law, you had to go out and buy a brand new, UK-specific FM radio. This created a split in the community. Many of the old-school operators who loved the crackle and pop of AM felt betrayed. They stuck to their illegal American sets, which they now called mid-block or sideband rigs. Meanwhile, a whole new wave of users bought the new legal FM sets, and the UK 40, or the 81s, as it became known, was born. For a while, the two worlds existed side by side. You had the slightly chaotic Wild West feel of the illegal AM bands, and the clearer, more orderly world of legal FM. To use the FM sets, you had to buy a license from the post office, which cost around £10 a year. It felt like the authorities had finally tamed the beast. The mid to late 1980s were the golden age of legal C.B radio in the UK. The market was flooded with new FM radios from manufacturers like Cobra, Midland, and Unidon. Shops like Tandy became the go-to place for anyone wanting to get on the air. The culture thrived. People would spend hours chatting, sharing local news, organizing weekend fishing trips, or just seeing how far their signal could skip. During certain atmospheric conditions, radio waves could bounce off the ionosphere, allowing you to talk to people hundreds or even thousands of miles away. Making a long-distance contact, or de-eshing, became a thrilling part of the hobby. Hearing a voice from Italy, Spain, or even further afield come booming out of your speaker was a magical experience. The slang, or CB lingo, continued to evolve. You had your breakers asking for a gap in the conversation. You'd give someone a copy if you could hear them clearly. Your home was your 10 to 20 or base station. Your wife or husband was your XYL, standing for an X young lady, or your OM for old man. You'd wish people good numbers on the side for a safe journey. It was a language all of its own, a secret code that bound the community together. But as the 1990s rolled on, things began to change. The arrival of the internet, and later the mobile phone, started to offer new, more convenient ways to communicate. Why spend hours trying to get a clear signal to talk to someone a few miles away when you could just send them a text or an email instantly? The CB license was eventually abolished in 2006, making it free for anyone to use the UK 40 FM channels. In 2014, Ofcom, the new regulator, also legalized the use of AM, an SSB single sideband on the same mid-block frequencies that the original pioneers had used illegally all those years before. It was a victory, but for many it came too late. The world had moved on. So, is CB radio dead in the UK? Not at all. It may not be the mainstream phenomenon it once was, but a dedicated community of enthusiasts keeps the airwaves alive. Truckers still use it on the motorways. Farmers use it to communicate across vast fields. And hobbyists, both old and new, still get a thrill from firing up their rig, grabbing the mic, and sending out a call. Breaker 19, anyone got a copy? It's a nostalgic link to a simpler time, a reminder of an era when communication felt a bit more real, a bit more human, and a bit more adventurous. It's a piece of social history that crackles on, a testament to our fundamental need to connect with one another. So there you have it. A brief history of the rise and evolution of CB radio in the UK. From a legal underground movement to a government-regulated national pastime, and now a cherished hobby, it's a fantastic story. Did you ever have a CB? What was your handle? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to read your stories. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this trip back in time, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more. Until next time, it's 10 to 10 from me on the side. Catch you on the flip-flop!